All right, here we go.
What's good, everybody? I'm Robert Dickens Jr.
This is Ryan Reed.
This is Elanders Frazier.
This is John Gaal, and you're listening to Volta.
Changing the conversation
For percussion educators,
designers,
and performers.
Good morning and happy weekend, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Volta Percussion. My name is Elanders Frazier. I'm joined by the illustrious, the to be feared, the revered, Mr. Ryan Reed, Mr. Robert Dickens Jr., and Mr. John Gaal. We thought we would come at you guys today. It's 2024. We hope everybody had a great holiday season, and it is, we're going to just kind of be talking about New Year, New Me. A lot of new things happening for everybody. So we wanted to kind of open up the floor, definitely for everybody, see what everybody's got going on for the new year, heading into 2024. I know just in me in general, so many things have happened just in the last week. We're only a couple of days into January so far. We got a whole 350 plus days ahead of us. So what's going on with y'all? How are y'all doing this evening, morning, etc.?
I'm sick.
I think everybody is a little bit. The sick season's been real bad this year. They said the big three has been RSV, COVID, and just like the common cold. I know I got COVID right after Thanksgiving, and I was down for like 7 days. 4 days was like real bad, fever in bed, etc. And then the last week I've been like up and down with like cold and just drainage and stuff like that. No RSV, so it's been okay. So thankfully, but I know I've had a lot of people
cold
at work that's been affected. Common cold, yellow gunk.
Common cold, 9 days. Oh man, it's rough.
Yeah, gross,
That's
nasty.
just me. Okay, that's just sickness. Rob's been doing some great stuff though. I've been hearing.
What you been doing, Rob?
Man. I've been chilling, man. I got a chance to go visit Alabama, and I am not sick. Did not
Roll
get sick
Tide?
after the break.
They got.
You don't have to do that.
Ooh, they lost that football game.
Oh, did they?
That one.
Yes.
They lose real bad.
Yes.
Who are they playing?
We didn't lose bad.
They played Michigan.
We played Michigan.
Okay.
First of all,
It was a good game.
It was a good. It was an ugly game. I'm an Alabama fan. This
Yeah.
whole season. Look. First of all, when I come with this slander that I'm about to come with, recognize that I was an Alabama fan when we were on 8 years of probation before we got Nick Saban.
Okay.
Michigan's
This year
defense was insane.
Sucked. Michigan. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this. Michigan's defense is pretty good. Alabama's offense is worse. So I'm not even gonna give Michigan's defense a lot of credit until they play Washington, who has a very good offense. Alabama's offense.
Both of them
is
would
like,
lose against
eh.
Georgia, just like that.
I don't know about all that, John. Cause y'all lost to Alabama, and Alabama, we wasn't that good this year.
That was a very close game, and they barely won at the end. Georgia killed
win is a
FSU.
win. You know what? You're not wrong. I'll say this. What I'm excited for in 2024 at this point is the 12-team college football playoff. That way we can stop all this arguing about who should have been in the playoff and Alabama shouldn't have been in there and this and that or whatever. Look, Alabama's gonna be in there every year now. Georgia gonna be in there every year now. We can stop the controversy.
There we go.
I'm just excited about the new year. I'm excited about the new year WGI. I definitely am. I'm excited because is this the Mystique 30th?
This is Mystique 30.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited about. Is this the first time they've used the visual on before?
This is the first time they've used a visual ensemble. Yes.
Okay, I'm excited about that because I really want this year to be very competitive. I felt like last year was like okay for like the activity in general, but I feel like there was a lot of just you know what I mean?
I feel like people have been ramping up since COVID though. I really feel like people have been trying to get their legs back under them in terms of recruitment and just their sea legs of their design process. Because I think with great design teams, you're only as good as what you can like workshop. And those seasons where you couldn't really do that, even with the virtual stuff, I think there was a lag in terms of just being able to, like, it's like you're a chef, but when you can't actually get in your kitchen and work with your recipes, like, you can't, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't taste the same, you know what I mean? So that's what I feel like all the design teams have been working through is like, they're finally, okay, now they got 2 years back in the kitchen again. I think this year it's finally gonna be like the continuation from 19 to now. You know what I mean? Like, we're finally gonna see what we were expecting going into 20 for these groups that had just been going and going, because a lot of these groups now, they've got their retention members back now, not the ones that should have aged out way back when. So they've got the older kids out of the group now. They've got younger craft in, staff, etc. So I really think this year we're going to see a lot of surprising stuff, WGI range. So I think I'm excited about Scholastic World too, though. Because and the reason I'll say this too, right? I don't think everybody expected Ayala to win last year. I'm just going to be real honest.
I'm not going to lie. Visually, I would take
fantastic.
That. Any day, I would always take Ayala as top as far as visuals concerned. But like the entire show as a whole, I wasn't really expecting them to win. I feel like Chino's show was like okay, but it felt kind of flat from what it normally is. I feel like the past 2 years to me has been kind of like they're always going to play clean enough to where they should win.
Right.
In my opinion. Like from all the things being put there, but it just seemed like it was lacking a little something. I don't know. But I mean, maybe it's what you said before.
I feel like everybody's going to be hungrier this year. I don't know why I'm having this feeling. I just feel like everybody's going to be hungrier this year. I don't know if it's a sign of the times. I don't know if it's the condition of the world. I don't know if it's, just the fact that this is what I've thought about. I've thought about the last 2 years specifically, right? So 22, 23. I think we were still in this kind of, I want to say this, like a battered, individual syndrome where we were just waiting to get hit again.
We were rehab.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we were in rehab, just like, like it could happen again. Like we could get hurt, we could get shut down. And it's like, I finally feel like that fear has kind of left, and now people are ready to take chances again. Like if you think about it, like I felt like everybody was just playing it just safe the last 2 years because we didn't know. So we had to make sure we were writing shows that were just safe enough. If something were to happen, we could still make it. You know what I mean? I feel like this year is the year to where like everyone feels like they're kind of off that fear train, and now we can really go for it. So,
and I think groups have, yes, I think individuals have navigated more back to not real life, but back to normal life, to where they're willing to commit to things because the fear of like, oh, it's going to go away again is not there as much. And I think a lot of ensembles have navigated COVID protocols to where COVID's not going away, but we still have to be able to give the kids the experience and have our ensembles operate, through having protocols, through having kids being absent, through figuring things out that I think it took 2 years to get through. And I think that, I'm really excited for that as well. And you guys said this is Mystique's 30th year. This is also Matrix's 25th anniversary.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So very, very exciting for stuff happening for us. But I know that we just had our holiday camp, and we dealt with a little bit of like COVID testing, quarantining, kids going home early, but us still being able to like put masks on for a day, and then like we're able to rehearse, and everyone's feeling fine, and everyone's not feeling fine. Now everyone is fine, and just navigating those waters of like where the line can't be shut it down anymore, And I think the world in general, because I see it with my high school kids too, of like they're more willing to commit, they're more willing to do things, and to that point, like we started a second concert group at my high school. So we have our A group who medaled last year is going to open class this year, and then we're starting an A group that is just a training ground, and it's like mostly freshmen, sophomores, some non-percussionists, and I'm having an absolute blast. Like, there's no competitive expectation. Like, yeah, we want to be competitive, but that's not at the forefront of like any planning, not at the forefront of the design, not at the forefront of like the education or the members. Like, we show up and we drum on drum pads to like learn to play with good sounds and great rhythm, and we learn our major scales, and then we learn whatever show music we can in the time that's left. And now we're starting to get to the point of season where it's like, all right, we got to learn a little bit more show, a little bit faster. But the kids are having fun, and I'm having a great time teaching with like, let's just see what we can do. And if we perform only a minute at the first show, then we just perform a minute, and that's fine. I've taken very competitive groups out to the first show and gone, all right, we got 45 seconds. I don't know why we just bust across the street for 45 seconds, but we got to do it.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
I think for students, sometimes the pressure of being great keeps them from like, it keeps them from finding their own successes sometimes, right? And sometimes the pressure is not even coming from us. Sometimes the pressure is coming from themselves at the same time, right? It's like they're looking around, maybe seeing the trophies on the wall or talking to former members or the older members, and they feel this pressure to where it's like we're constantly telling them, we just want you to do your best, but because they feel that internal pressure, they're not even getting to that level of vulnerability that allows them to find those little mini wins. So it's like trying to continue to impress upon them, like, what we did today was a success. Like, we had our first post Christmas camp this weekend, and one of my students, oh man, I got to tell y'all about this, right? So we were running this drill set, and it was I don't know how many counts to move over. It was a fairly big move, right? And he was about 7.5 inches, 8 inches off the dot. You know, we ran it. It's like, you got to get closer to the dot. Ran it again. I said, you got to get closer to that dot. I know you can make this dot. Then ran it again. He said, I cannot make this dot. And I said, you telling me you can't make this dot? What are you talking about? This is a sophomore now, right? So my voice got a little bit elevated. I said, I know you can make that dot. I said, you're 7 inches away. I was like, you're going, I think it was like a 12 count move. I was like, that's like 1.5 millimeters on every step. I was like, you're telling me you can't make that move? I've seen you do harder drill moves last year. What are you talking about? Reset. Starts crying. And everything in my heart and soul was like, I know he's crying because he cares, because 1, he doesn't want to disappoint the ensemble. 2, he doesn't want to disappoint himself. 3, there is something right now mentally telling him that he cannot do this, and he's trying to overcome it in real time, in the moment. And 4, the entire ensemble is hoping that he makes this set so we can move on, right? So we run it again, and he makes the set, and I'm just like, there you go. What were you saying that you couldn't make the set? And he's just like, well, you know, my foot's on it. I'm like, yes, I know your foot's on it. You just needed the rep. And I told him, I was like, stop telling me what you can't do and start telling me what you can do. Because if I know and I believe in what you can do, you've got to believe in that for yourself. And I felt like that was a whole moment for the ensemble to just kind of like click in, to be like, yo, why would we tell ourselves no when we've got the whole world ahead of us? And I reminded them, y'all, this is January. We're focusing to get to April. I was like, this is the first camp. Y'all can't be going so hard on yourselves in January that you can't see the journey all the way to April. Like, if you're telling yourself you can't make dots in January, we ain't gonna make it to April. You know what I mean? It's like, we literally are just adding music to everything now. So it was quite an enlightening moment for the ensemble, but I we broke for water and everything, and I was like, hey, you cool, man? He was like, yeah, I'm good. I was like, all right, we good. He was just having a moment. Yeah, he was just having a moment. So what else is going on for y'all 2024?
Man, I'm excited about working with a group in almost every class. Working with a novice group, and we did some drill last week. and it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of just like first time, never done this before. I'm a wind player. What is indoor? What is drums? What is a mallet? What's a stick? What's a paradiddle? What's an accent? Tap.
Oh,
Just
that's
lots
funny.
of that, man. It was great. I got to go back and forth between the two because the school's maybe like 20 minutes away from my main school. So I did some drill over there with them for maybe like 2 hours and gridded out the floor and all that kind of stuff, and then went back to my high school. And it was just, I think one of the things that maybe students don't necessarily recognize is like what you were talking about, just seeing students progress. That's one of the things that I think I'm most excited to see this year and probably every year because it's inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at a lot of my seniors and kids that are like, hey, I remember this kid, you know, was a transplant from saxophone, and he would sit in my office every day and we'd figure out how to drum because he got obsessed with drums because the band director said, hey, this kid sucks at saxophone, you think you can work with him on drums? And he was like, you know what, I ain't like saxophone anyway, so I'm gonna try it. And now this kid's on the snare line, he's like killing it.
Nice.
Like that's exciting to me. I think
Mm-hmm.
kids don't necessarily recognize that, but that's probably the thing that I'm most excited about is just seeing kids progress and seeing a group that, maybe they start out a novice and they're trying to figure out what they're doing, and maybe next year their indoor group is bigger and they're in A class and like they're excited about all the things that are, happening within the activity and all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to see students grow throughout the activity this year, and to be a part of that. I think is really special too.
That's dope, man.
Talking about band kids, Rob, I was telling you guys off screen before we were recording this session how I'm doing percussion ensemble. I don't do the indoor stuff like y'all do, just because I know it's exhausting and I just don't have the facilities and I don't have the money or the manpower to do all that. Um, but I was telling you guys how one of the big pieces we're doing this year for this upcoming concert is Windows of the Maloka by Jim Casella. So for those that don't know, it's a 14-player piece, and with my program, I only have 7 percussion kids. So where do I get those other 7 kids? Well, that's where I get them from the band students. And before people were, yelling at me in the comments saying, "Oh, you're picking a really hard piece for not advanced percussion kids." Calm down. I always send out a survey the kids in the band app. Hey, who wants to do percussion ensemble? Who's at any interest in percussion ensemble this upcoming season? The band kids, they see how the percussion kids and we like to have some fun and we do some cool things, so they want to join. So I already know, okay, this kid's a trumpet player. Okay, this is a bassoon player. This is a good flute player. This is not a good flute player. I already, because I work with these kids anyway in the band. And I'm thinking, okay, what pieces can I do that's going to tailor to their strengths? It's not going to be such a big uphill battle. But this year, what I'm really trying to do is one big piece because I take my kids to the TCU concerts, and you got 6 5-octave rosewood marimbas, and then 4 vibes, and a xylophone and a Glock, and double chimes, double timpani. Huge percussion orchestra stuff. And I want them to experience that. So I decided to do this piece, but I bring it all back because you were talking about with your band kids and your novice program. They're like, what's all this? Well, the first rehearsal I did with Windows of Maloka, and I had some of the band kids. There's one of them was a sweet flute player. I gave her the chime part. Okay, so treble clef, upper tessitura. She should be able to read the notes. But she's just looking at the music. It's in 6/8 and 7/8, which is a time signature they're not comfortable with to begin with. But then she's seeing X's and diamonds, which you don't see that in flute playing that often, unless it's advanced techniques, and she's not there. So she's just standing there. And like, she'll raise her hand. She's like, "Mr. Gaal, what do I do?" I'm like, I tell this to the whole group. I'm like, all right, I know you have tons of questions for me. Don't worry, I'm gonna spoon feed you everything you need to know. But right now, I just need you to figure it out yourself and just try. Just try. No one's gonna get mad. Just try your best. If you get it wrong, no, it's okay. We're sight reading. That's what we do. It's December. Okay, we're gonna play this all the way till March. But it was just funny how you were talking about with your novice kids as band. They don't know what they're doing, and I got a couple band kids in the back just trying to figure it out. And it's funny kind of watching the other students help each other out. Some of my pert kids will go over there and be like, "Oh, that's this note right here in the chime. You just take this hammer and you boom, just like that." Or are you supposed to count to 7? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then you hit the thing. That's all you got to do. So it's funny. Excuse me. Bring in non-percussion people in the percussion activity and trying to teach them the things and seeing their brain hurt a lot, but also really seeing when their light bulb goes off and they're just like, oh, that's it? Oh, boom, I got it. It's funny. Let's enjoy it to watch.
That makes me think of a question just in general for your all programs, and I'd like to hear from maybe Ryan first. Just how important do you impress upon your upperclassmen the importance of that information sharing to the other students that are new to the program or are maybe on the underside of application? I say underside of application because maybe they've been in the program for a while, but maybe they just aren't the strongest appliers of said information that's given to them. But what's the kind of conversations that you have with your students? I know we've talked a lot about our podcast and just how we can bring more depth to talking to the students that may listen to this program. And I kind of want to talk to the students today. How can we engage them more with our insight in terms of if you're an upperclassman in a program, what are some of those things you talk to them about to engage with those younger members?
I think one of the first things that I do is I don't necessarily talk about it, but I put them in situations where they just have to do it. Like I started right at auditions, for the auditions that we had for the indoor groups. Like we'll put everybody on keyboards and then like I'll teach a scale, and my percussionists know all the scales already and whatnot. Most of my upper advanced percussionists do. So some of the younger ones don't. Some of the non percussion kids are like, they know their scales, but they're like, what do I do with these two things and this in front of me? And I like teach it to them real quick, but then I go, all right, pair. I put them in pairs, or I have them pair up and like just help each other. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I'm like the less talking I have to do about like things, the less philosophizing I have to do with the kids, the better, and just force them to do it, and not force them in a way where it's like you have to do this, but like, hey, pair up, help each other out, this kind of thing. Hey, meet somebody, tell them what your favorite ice cream flavor is. Hey, teach somebody something that you learned over whatever, I think is a really good way to foster those relationships and not have to make it a thing that's awkward of like, hey, you're good. Hey, you suck. You help them.
It almost sounds like you kind of force critical thinking on their part because you don't give them a lot of information. So they have to think about what it is that they need to share in order to get them to understand what's happening right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. And like at marching band camp last year, like, so we had our 5 marimbas and our 5 vibes, and I would bring the vibe players up to the marimbas and have them double up on the instruments. And you could watch kids after doing this for a couple months of like, I'm starting to push them a little bit harder. But you can see them start to cheer each other on because they've had those partners for a while, because it's like vibe 1, marimba 1, pair up. And they like start to encourage each other when they notice that one person's struggling. Like my marimba player's like, you got it, come on, you're doing it right, you just got to go faster. Or hey, it's this instead of that, you're doing a great job, just keep it up. And like kids that in the past have not always been the most positive influence on the people around them, were starting to become like amazing influences. And like we would take a break and they'd automatically turn around and help somebody without me having to tell them. So I think just through that constant fostering of like the big brother, little brother, or big sister, little sister type of relationship is it starts to become a more natural thing that they just evolve into. And then like they don't wait for me to do that. They like naturally gravitate towards the eighth graders that are coming in and helping them and that kind of stuff. So though I will say the one little downside to that is sometimes if the whole section is younger, then you got that one little know-it-all that's like, I can help everybody. It's like, you're not ready for that yet. Let me. I'm teaching. You're learning.
Right. Little too soon. Ready to jump in the kitchen a little too soon.
Yeah.
This
Timmy,
is
you're
my
not
moment.
playing the downstroke either.
Yeah.
Relax.
John, Rob.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the awareness is something that we've really been working on at my school. I've been talking to them about um, one first thing is like just making sure that their attention is on point, and then my second thing is just like awareness, which is to me is like how many things can you pick up that you can improve your performance without any instruction, because ultimately that's where we're trying to get you to go if you want to perform later on, or if you just want to get better. It's like, how aware can you be of like how to make this better and what you need to think about on a consistent basis. And obviously, like Ryan was talking about with some of the younger players, like they have a big growth curve or learning curve as it relates to their awareness, just because they're just brand new and they don't know, okay, well, this is what sounds good and this is what sounds bad. And this is why this is good and this is why this is bad. And this is what I need to do to make this be good all the time. And this is what I need to do to, you know what I mean? So just trying to push that aspect of it, of awareness, as to like, just being aware of like what's happening. And then the highest level of that, especially for like the more advanced players, is just like being aware in the moment. You know what I mean? Not necessarily like just trying to fix things all the time, but like I just need to think about having more energy. I need to think about being more present or whatever, So I think that's the thing that I'm kind of focusing on this year, especially with like Ryan was talking about with pairing up members, especially I feel like some sections, at least at my schools, I feel like some sections just kind of naturally do this. I feel like the snare drums for sure just naturally like it's almost like a club where like if you want to be in that club, you just kind of know certain things. You're aware of certain things of like how to make your left hand do this. And if you don't know, you just ask somebody. You know what I mean? Like people don't just like randomly wind up like, I think I want to play snare drum. Like you have to put some thought into it because it's different than other stuff. You know what I mean? I think my bass drummers tend to be the ones that like they're definitely way more low key. Like they would know stuff, but they're not the pushy person to be over there and be like, you need to turn your wrist like this. You know what I mean? The snares are very much like, this is the way it's done. Everybody needs to do this. And the quads are kind of somewhere in the middle of like, hey, I think we should all do this. What do you think? You know what I mean? And then the bass drums are more like, that person's not doing that right, but I don't know if I should say something yet.
And the simple players just like, I don't want to carry a drum. I just want to hit some stuff.
Oh,
Boom,
straight
boom,
up.
boom.
Oh, definitely. Straight up. They definitely have their cultish ways too in the cymbal world. It's just like this is what we're about. We know what we're about. So
The
but
bare
I think
minimum.
I think that's I don't know. I think my cymbal players definitely are like gung ho. They're just like, I'm not about drums. I think I have a couple. We've had maybe two or three cymbals that have been on the cymbal line like consistently the past couple years or so, and they're just like, I don't really want to play a drum. I mean, I could, you know what I mean? Not
Right.
saying that I couldn't, but I'm just like, this is what I'm about. So yeah, but like I said, awareness I think is just always something that's great, and just I think it's important life skills. So
I think that, yeah, I would agree. My program, like I said, I only have 7 kids. So this is the first year I'm actually going to graduate a senior who's been through all 4 years. And he's one of my COVID kids. And I
nice.
don't know if it's just the inner city or just the type of kids I'm with or whatnot. They're primarily African American and Hispanic, but they're just more like low key, not like gun ho energy, like drum corps kids you see coming to audition and whatnot, even at the open class level. They're just like living life. And I don't know if that's also just a cultural thing from their parents, because I've talked to their parents, and parents would just be like, my son, you got a 70, and that's okay. That's good enough for me. And they're trying to speak to me in their broken English and whatnot. But it's interesting because I have this senior, and he's always been a late bloomer. Um, but it's funny now that we'll go around the room and whatnot, and the freshmen, they're super awkward and they don't want to play in front of the class, whether it's a scale or whatnot. And then he'll pipe right up and he'll go, hey, come on, man, just play it. All right, we're all gonna play it. Just hurry up and play it. Get it over with or whatnot. And I'll give him time. I'll be like, all right, 30 seconds, go practice. And so everyone's practicing on the keyboard or drum or whatnot. And then I'll see him practicing a scale. And yeah, you're right. Even in a smaller group, you have your little groups within groups. And I think it goes with whether it's a boy or a girl. I think that's number one. I also think just how they act, if they're quiet or outgoing, or also really just their grade. So, I got my 2 sophomore beginner girls. I started them as freshmen, and now they've kind of grown up. So they'll always pair together. And I got my senior, and he's always doing his thing, but he pairs up also with one of the sophomore girls because she's more outgoing. And so this year he was like, I'm going to go for this. So he tried to get more outgoing as well because he's seen that she's more outgoing. So they kind of paired up sometimes. And, it's just interesting. You never know what they're going to pick up from you. But as I just watch the group as they're practicing during their 30 seconds, he may say something. I may watch and see the senior say something to the whoever he's with. Check your beating spot here, or check your note placement here, etc., etc. So yeah, it's always interesting. I think it's extremely important for anyone who's listening. If you're an upperclassman, just take the initiative and help your director out in helping those younger kids. And it's okay to show off and show them how it's supposed to be done at the right time, right? You got to read the room. If the teacher's talking, that's not the time to be like, oh, this is how you do it, blah, blah, blah. But if he's given or she's giving you opportunities to practice with someone, use that initiative to help them along, because you're going to be gone in a few months. So what type of legacy you want to last, and who knows on how well you can help that person. So I think student leadership, whether they're in a role or if there's not a role listed to them, assigned to them, it's extremely important.
Yeah, I think I've been trying to actively try to call out when students are doing the desired behaviors that we want to see in the ensemble. Like I know when we're in visual rehearsal, when I see students that are, they count every single rep, I will stop and say, hey, so-and-so's counting every single rep, hasn't taken a rep off yet. When can we get everyone else to also count every single rep and understand why it's important? And you see everybody look around like, yeah, you're right. I could count. It's just like, So it's like I've been innately trying to find more opportunities to not tell them what's going wrong, but just highlight the individuals or section of individuals that are doing the right things, to hopefully just start drilling in them that, it's not always about doom and gloom, but a lot of the times it's just like finding what's your pathway to success, and it's going to be different for every single person. One of the main points that we left this weekend's camp with, because we had a terrible warm-up. We did 3 blocks on Saturday. The choreographer is with them all first 2 blocks, so we warmed up so we could start putting music with everything in the night block. In the night block, the warm-up was rough, and we were getting ready to go into ensemble, and I was like, look, y'all, I was like, y'all know me. I was like, there's two kids here that were not with us in the fall because one transplanted from the front ensemble, the other one transplanted from the horn line. I said, everyone else, y'all spent all fall with us, so y'all already understand the expectations that we have as an ensemble. And I was like, I expect that you're gonna make mistakes. I already get that. I said, but there's another expectation that y'all should already know that I expect out of y'all. And I said, what is that? And it's crazy because in my mind, I said that knowing it as a rhetorical question that they wouldn't be able to answer it. I knew what my answer was because I was prepared to tell them, but I didn't expect them to answer it. And like 3 or 4 of them were like, to work. And I was like, they have been listening. Like in my mind, I was like, they have been listening. Like I was so excited. Like 2 or 3 of them were just like, that's exactly what I was gonna tell them. I was like, yes, I expect you to work. And then of course I went into my analogy spiel about how I'm preparing them for life lessons and how when they get a job, it's gonna put them above the other 79% of people that come to work and don't do anything. I said innately, you're going to experience a job at some point where you walk in the door and you're going to see over half of the people you work with that don't care, don't put in any effort, etc. I was like, don't be part of that crowd. Be a part of the crowd that actually cares, puts in effort. And I was like, that's going to carry you super far. I was like, and that's all I ask you to do is just come in here and work. I was like, y'all, we got 2.5 hours left in this rehearsal. I know it's been a long day. It's 9-hour days are always the worst, or 12-hour days are always the worst days. I was like, you're not off the clock yet. You're not off the clock for another 2.5 hours. You can't just, throw in the towel now because you're feeling a certain way. You still got to put in work until, you're off the clock. So I was like, so can we make this agreement from now until the end of the season that we need to actively put in the work when it's time to work, and then when you're not here, you're good to go. The other thing that I was really kind of drilling them as well was that there's this new analogy that I thought of this year. It was about a power grid. Okay, I hit y'all with this analogy because I thought it was brilliant when I said it, right? It's an analogy about a power grid because I was explaining to them, a lot of the times we ask y'all to turn on a light switch on off, right? Turn the switch on, make the light bulb happen. I said, y'all get so much. Yeah, thank you for the visual, John. That really helps prove the point, right? I said, y'all think about this sometimes so singularly that you're only concentrated on the information that you just got the rep before. So it's like, hey, get your feet in time, or hey, you need to turn your foot out, etc. So you're only focused on fixing that one thing that we asked you to fix the rep before. I said, what about all the information that you got over the last 7 months? I said, where's the application of that information? I said, if we want to look at this light switch thing as a power grid, I was like, I'm not asking you to just turn on a light switch at the beginning of the rep. I'm asking you to turn on the entire power grid of every bit of information that you've ever received from me every time we start the rep. And I was like, and if y'all can figure out how to access all of that information, you will be that much better. But if you're only accessing just that little bit of power of that light bulb, of just the little nugget that you got the rep before, you're only going to be as good as what I'm telling you immediately before the rep. And that's just gonna, the things will pile up at that point, So that's one thing that I kept repeating to them all weekend was like, y'all crank the power grid up. Let's go. Where is it at? And I think they're kind of starting to understand like the concept of we know more than what we think we know, but we don't always use that, And it's like, it's hard sometimes as a student because there's so many things that are taking your attention, or is in the way, or you're thinking about, or you want to think about. And it's hard to just, narrow that vision down to like, what am I being asked to do in this moment? And it's like, in this moment, it's not that I'm asking you to do a lot. I'm just asking you to use everything that you know how to use to be able to do one task, right? It's not that I'm asking you to do a lot of tasks. I'm just asking you to use all of your collective energy to do this task. And I think sometimes students confuse that with, we're being asked to do so much. It's like, no, I'm not asking you to do a lot. I'm just asking you to use everything that you have to do this one thing. And if I can get students to understand that you've got the capacity to do that, because you multitask a lot of the times in life, right? Anytime you step out of the front door, you're multitasking, and that's how you don't trip up and fall and bust your face open, right? I was like, but I'm asking you to just put all that collective energy into this one thing that we're doing right now, so it's, I think students surprise you sometimes. Like I said, those three that hit me with that work, I was like, that's the first time in my life I ever asked a rhetorical question that got answered. Man, I'm good. I was very proud of them in that moment. They really surprised me. I will never let them know. If they hear this podcast, I'll deny it. That was great though. It was great.
I like that. I like that power grid analogy. And, since we're talking about new year, new me, in 2024, I would encourage students to not only think about like use all of your energy for like to do one thing, but to think about like using more energy when you're trying to make corrections as well. I think 90% of like musical problems can be solved by just, are you using enough energy in what you're doing? But I also think that like students nowadays, not to sound like the old man, but
please say it.
But because of COVID and the couch and social media and everything else, like when they do a little, it feels like a lot. Mm-hmm. But like sometimes you got to do a lot to get a little. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I've tried to push on my students a lot this year, of like, it feels like you're doing a lot, but up here where I'm standing, it's nothing. Mm-hmm. It's nothing. So you like, if you feel like you're giving a lot, you got to give like 10 times a lot. And I think my top kids are just now starting to understand, like, oh man, to make a minute adjustment doesn't take minute effort. It takes a lot of effort to get a minute change. And then it takes like a maximum effort to get like a decent sized change. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage all kids in 2024, like, if you're going to do something, leave every rehearsal exhausted, whether it's percussion ensemble, winter percussion, band rehearsal, marching band rehearsal, drum corps rehearsal, drum corps auditions, whatever you're doing, leave there exhausted from giving all of your energy. Because that will also be the thing that sets you apart from everybody else in your auditions and your rehearsals.
Absolutely. For a second there, I thought you were going to say word for word when I was another thing that I was pointing out to the kids this weekend. And I literally called myself the old guy, because I was talking to them about, in the same frame, but I was like on the next page, the next chapter over, I was talking to them about how technology has kind of, it's kind of given us like a handicap of sorts in this video game a little bit, because so much of our technology is meant to make things easier for us that we don't really have to use all of our brain power to do certain tasks. So it's like, when I open up my tablet or my phone or my computer, I have all these tutorials or these things that makes everything super efficient to where I can do, kind of to your point, minimal work and get a lot done. And I said, but the reality of the situation that you're in is that there's no magic app that lets you play a drum or move on the court more efficiently without using your brain to do that. And I told him, I was like, if I could program it in my phone to do it, I would have been programmed y'all by now and been off and running. I was like, but I can't. I was like, so we're doing the programming right now. This is what we were doing, box drill, right? So y'all know I love my boxes. I was like, we were doing box drill, and I was like, we're doing the programming right now in terms of building the physicality that you need to be able to play and move at the same time. And unfortunately, there's no efficiency that we're going to gain through technology. You just have to do it. And you have to think about doing it while you're doing it so you get better at it. And I said, I don't know if y'all always access, once again, that entire power grid of information that you've got at your disposal because you think you don't need to, or, and I said, and I can't completely blame y'all either. Y'all have grown up in a society where so much is built to make things so much more efficient. You know, we don't really have to use all of that anymore, you know, not daily, at least. You know what I mean? So I was like, so it is a struggle for you. But I was like, but if you guys can start figuring out how to do that more often, especially here, you're going to be better for it. And it's going to pay dividends for you later on in life. You know what I mean? So it sucks, I think, sometimes to be at our age. Well, I'll say it like this. It sucks because of our generation, because we remember what it was like pre-technology, but we also have experienced what it is living in an age of like max technology. So we see the benefit of like having to use every brain cell to do literally anything that you wanted to do, all the way to really having not to think about anything and being able to accomplish a whole lot given the tools that you have, right? You know, we've gone from, you know, I don't want to say the caveman, but we've gone from using the rock and, you know, hammer all the way to the power drill. And we've seen that kind of change in our lifespan, but we're uniquely situated where we can speak on the prior and the now. And unfortunately, we teach students that can't speak on the prior. They only can hear it through historical record, right, from us. So sometimes it sounds like we're just barking, or we're the dinosaurs, or we're the old unk, you know, like you said, we're getting called unk now, you know, but it's like, but it's so much more fulfilling when you use your brain power to do it. Like, yeah, I can talk to Siri all day long, but I love typing out a conversation to my friends. It makes me feel like I accomplished something. I still know how to write words. You know?
I mean, I think there's only going to be so much of it that we would be able to use regardless. You know what I mean? Because I think that the information has it packaged in a way to where this is the most efficient way to do it. But to teach your hands how to do it, like the functionality part of that, like you can't escape that.
Can't skip it.
What I mean? Like you can't skip that just because you know functionally this is the most efficient way to do this does not mean that your body and your hands and everything else like physically understands how to do that. Now, when you get to that process, it will be that efficient. You know what I mean? But the process of getting better is in and of itself inefficient, because it's like, okay, is there a way for me to now take all this information and immediately know how to do it? No, there isn't. So you're going to have to go through the inefficient process of hard work, of doing it over and over and over again. Because I mean, I feel like that's a common thing with us with having technology and having all these advancements in our lives and everyone in general, is that because something has been simplified, we think that it makes it easier. It's easier to understand, or it's, you know, simple to understand, but it's not necessarily easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure the way that rockets work is very simple. You know what I mean? Someone that is a rocket scientist could explain it to us and be like, oh, okay, it's just this, and this combusts, and this drops off, and then this goes up here. And it's like, I follow exactly what you're saying. I don't think I can do it.
I cannot build a rocket, sir.
You know what I mean? So I think
Right.
that's the part that if you don't embrace the difficult part of like workshopping through that, then you will get disillusioned because you feel like this is so simple. Like the person explained it like this. Snare drumming is this. Playing a marimba is this. So why can't I do it? Well, it's simple, but you still have to go through the process and that inefficient process of learning how to do it. So hopefully, if there are students that are at a beginning or earlier part in your journey, and you're like, I understand exactly what they're saying from a head knowledge standpoint, but I can't do it and I'm frustrated. Like, hopefully you can take a step back and not feel like there's something wrong with you. You might just be at the beginning of the process of learning how to do it and teaching yourself how to digest the information. So just because like you understand it from a head knowledge standpoint doesn't necessarily mean that you can skip that process of workshopping to get through there. And you're going to get through there. The only way that you don't get through there is if you quit and you don't be consistent and do the work like E was talking about.
You coined a phrase there, embracing the difficulty, that I really like. And I think it not only applies to students, I think it applies to educators too. I think it applies to designers, like to our whole like charter of audience, right? Like you cannot skip the difficulty that comes with either starting something new or trying to become like a professional in something, right? There's just you can't skip those levels. Not if you really want to be good at it. You can become competent in something, and I'm sure you can just familiarize yourself with something with very little effort. But if you plan to be the best, or you plan to be very competent or very knowledgeable, it takes time, effort, energy, and you have to embrace, like you said, the inefficient process of going through those steps multiple times over to get to a point to where, you now have an accessible range of knowledge and information that you can now adapt and create from that space. And I think that's what really always changes it for me, is when now you've turned understanding to creation. And when you've turned understanding now over to creation, I think you understand it at a different level now. Because a lot of people don't understand it at that level yet. And I start seeing glimmers of it in my students when they start making recommendations to me as upperclassmen. I'm like, yeah, you're starting to now see it when you start making those recommendations of, and the well thought out ones, not just the shoot from the hip. I think this would be cool if we just cocked our head to the side like that. Nah, you're just repeating something somebody else said. But when they make a thoughtful, like, observation and really like absorb what's going on, they listen to the music and they're like, okay, I got some counts. They had to get their courage up. They had to come, get the confidence to come make this recommendation. Sometimes they'd be so afraid. Elanders, can I ask a question? It's just like, but that change to turn into that creativity is like, yes, you're now starting to understand the bigger picture of what you have been doing, and that is going to carry you because you're going to continue to do things like that over your entire lifespan. When you become a homeowner and you start living in a household, how things work in your house is going to be scary and intimidating the first time you live by yourself. But over time, you will start to understand the things that make your house work and run. You know what I mean? You will understand the things that make your car work and run. You will understand the things that come with teaching a high school group or a middle school group or elementary school group, designing for this kind of ensemble, et cetera, et cetera. It takes time to get to that point in your life, and you have to work through that difficulty to get to that point. So, great, man. Embracing the difficulty.
Awesome conversation.
Yeah, man. Well, new year, new me. I'm excited. 2024 is just beginning. We've got obviously more stuff to talk about. Season 4 is not done just yet, but we appreciate everybody that has tuned in thus far. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We're in season 4, and we're going into almost year 4 This is year 3. Oh, this is year 4. Yeah, I forgot. We're a pandemic baby podcast. So going into year 4, such exciting. So we do appreciate everybody that has taken the time to listen to us. Once again, if you want to find us on any of our podcast services, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We have got an account over at Buzzsprout, but you can find us at Volta Percussion. If you want to find us in social media, we're at Volta Percussion on Instagram. We're also at Volta Percussion on YouTube. If you have any questions, comments, you want to reach out to us to speak to us, you have any ideas or any topics that you want to hear about, or you just have some questions in general that you want to ask us, you can reach out to us by email at voltapercussion@gmail.com. So, final thoughts from anybody in the room before we sign off for this afternoon, evening, morning? Nope. All right.
Enjoyed the conversation, gentlemen.
It's a good one for sure. Awesome. Well, it's been a treat. My name is Elanders Frazier. Got with me Mr. John Gaal, Mr. Robert Dickens Jr., and Mr. Ryan Reed. We'll talk to y'all in the next one. Y'all be good. Peace.
See you.